beautiful. And then the things will never be the same.
We are live.
It wasn't Zoom.
Yeah, we're live, and we may. I'm hearing a lot of background noise, so maybe if
Oh, yeah.
kind of mute. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Chair, we're ready.
You ready? It's another minute, but you want to start early?
Oh, okay. Yes, you're right. It's 7:59.
Or 6:59 if you're in Central Time Zone.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I have different times. I have, well, now I have 8 on my
Yeah.
phone.
All right, we'll get started. This is welcome to the Public Works Committee, 8 o'clock, October 1st. Virtual meeting due to COVID-19 pandemic. Public has been notified. We'll call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public have duly been notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. First item of approval is previous meetings minutes from September 3rd. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion we approve, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. A second by Susan. Thank you.
Second. And I do have an amendment
All right.
to reflect the figures on the net savings of outsourcing garbage collection should be 20. I don't have the exact figures. Wait, hold on. They were a little bit off. They should be, I'll get the exact figures. They should be more like 24,000 rather than 586,000. And the potential savings of outsourcing garbage collection and yard debris should be 153,000 instead of 1,042,000. I think it was just grabbed the wrong figures on that.
Yeah. Thank you, Susan. I missed that. And I'll look through the minutes. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that people understood that we were not blowing off potential $1 million in savings.
Yeah, thank you.
For the savings with the budget, just to the budget, but when you put in the cost for the outsourcing with the Republic estimates, then
The net savings.
the net savings are different.
Yeah, thank you. Any other changes on the minutes? Otherwise, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, unanimous. I know we had one citizen's comment. I'm not sure it's really for Public Works, but we'll read it into the minutes. Ron, are you doing that?
I've got it.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Nicole. I'm on my small screen. Thank you.
Sure, no
Good
problem.
morning.
Good morning. This is from Phil and Mary Cogbill of 7 Marsh Island Lane. Please do not renew the lease for Tidal Wave Sports. The jet skis are a nuisance and a significant hazard. We live on the marsh side of the island, and the jet skiers frequently are careening down the narrow creeks, almost swamping small boats, likely damaging docks with their wakes and eroding the banks of the marshes, not to mention the awful noise. Most jet ski renters are also highly arrogant and oftentimes dangerous. Although they are supposed to stay 500 yards from the beach, one group had a jet ski near the property beach house and would drive it up to the beach so they could take turns riding it, despite many small children playing in the surf. Finally, one woman decided it would be fun to do tight circles in the surf at high speed. We rescued our grandson so he would not be injured or killed. And somebody took a video of a person doing this. She said some very rude things to my wife and was totally unapologetic. We called DNR, and thankfully they sent someone out quickly, and they cited them and watched to be sure they safely left the beach. We should not have to go through this to have a safe, real-time on our beach or marshes. Tidal Wave Sports is a public nuisance and needs to go. And those are your comments.
Okay, Nicole, thank you very much for doing that. Next item, department report. Donnie, you up first?
Sure. Because it's the first, I haven't received anything from the county yet.
Yeah.
And on my vehicle maintenance for the month, very deceiving. I've spent $600. That's very deceiving because I'm waiting on a $2,600 invoice for my flatbed repairs that has not come in. That's the flatbed's back. They were waiting on one additional part invoice before they could invoice me. I will tell you though that in the overall scheme of things, the travel time to Beast Ferry is a loss of efficiency for the city. it's creating some issues. We can manage with no overtime right now of this time of the year, but yeah, I can see in the next spring it's going to be problematic.
Yeah.
But with that being said, is there any questions for me before I turn it to Robert?
Hey, Donnie.
Yes,
When
sir.
when you guys go to Beach Ferry, do you go 526 all the way, or do you go?
No,
across?
I've got, depending on the time of the day,
Uh-huh.
once you get up in the day, then we would not go 526, because if you get on, and once you get on, you're stuck.
Right. That's why I was asking.
So we go Ravenel. But what I've been doing, just so you guys know, is on Tuesdays, we get through with garbage on the 30th Avenue through Wild Dunes around 10 minutes to 2 o'clock. That's from 7:30 to 2 o'clock. No lunches or anything like that. And so at that time of the day, Glenn McConnell and 61 is just, the risk for me is too great. It's not just time, but if my drivers were to leave at 1:45 or 2 o'clock, they wouldn't be getting back to 6:30. So
Right.
I've been holding those 5 garbage trucks till Wednesday morning, 7:30, let them go to Beast Ferry. And they getting back around 9:30, 10 o'clock. So you're losing about 4 hours is what you're losing.
Yeah.
So this time of the year, we can recover every week and try our best to service every subdivision within the Isle of Palms with yard debris and miscellaneous. But it is a lack of efficiencies. Those 4 hours means a lot. But we'll manage until spring, and then we'll have to figure out how we're going to do it. Hopefully this 22 truck, we can retrofit, which give us a little bit more capacity.
Okay. And Desiree, do we still have some negotiations or conversation going on with the county at all in regards to this?
No, well, we did, but there doesn't seem to be any appetite to have any other conversations other than, if we wanted to pay for the transfer fee, then that's certainly something that we could consider. The fee that the county was paying on behalf of the city was around $115,000 a year. So, and Donnie and I, in my conversations are, what's the comparable and what we're expecting it to, the impact that we're expecting in terms of overtime and additional fuel, and potential additional maintenance for the vehicles that are going to be out there longer. But Donnie seems to believe that it won't reach that number to justify paying for the transfer station at this point. We're still having, conversations internally about what changes can we make to meet the demand for the spring and summer, which is what we're concerned about. So we definitely, we have some time to prepare for that, but there doesn't seem to be that many options for us.
Okay.
Thank you, Donnie. Appreciate that.
All right. I'm going to turn it to Robert.
All right, Robert.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Let's start with drainage. So with SCDOT, I had a second meeting on Hartnett Boulevard. That's between 23rd and 24th Hartnett. And we're still working on opening up a drainage ditch that they went to once previous, and it just wasn't opened up big enough. It wasn't taking in water, so they're back there. We also discussed the persistent flooding on that street and what they could do. They're hesitant to put in piping in that location, and our right of way is a little bit too narrow for, excuse me, for a swell ditch. So we're kind of, he's looking, my contact at SCDOT is looking at ways that we can try to do something over there. We've also had Edie's on the island right now, and they have been doing ditch and pipe cleaning on Sand Dollar and Wildwood. In Sand Dollar, we had an obstruction in in a box due to cypress roots. They cut all that out, and that is operational. Again, we have vegetation cleanup going on around the island. Specifically, we're on Forest Trail, 41st, 25th, 30th. Also Wildwood, there were some ditches there that hadn't been cleaned in quite a bit. We also, a ditch on between 21st and 22nd, Edie's is scheduled to go out there. That's a ditch that hasn't been touched in quite some time. It's overgrown. It ties into the Methodist church, which experienced a little bit of flooding. Let's see. And so also we've had persistent flooding on 34th and Hartnett. That is one of our roads. So I've had our independent contractor that I've used up in Will's Way to correct the problem of flooding up there. He's looking into how we can tie in some piping and bring the water down. And he's looking at 23rd also, along with DOT, because I kind of feel like these are two places that are affecting more than one house. It's 3, 4, 5 houses where any rainstorm, it's constantly flooded. As far as facility is concerned, we finally have our diesel generator up and running for Public Works. We had a lesson by Cummins on what to expect, what to look for. We've started a weekly log every time that generator runs so we can keep track of the parameters on the machine and if anything were to go wrong. Also scheduled City Hall's PM maintenance for the generator to get that on the same schedule. So when we roll into hurricane season, storm season, we know that all these generators are operating properly. Now that we've slowed up a little bit here, we're starting to do some work back on the Public Works building, trying to get our rolling gate working. We're going to be installing new front gates to complement the wood that we've already had. Those will be wood gates. We also are working on, and this comes in a little bit later, we've got an issue with this building having a condensation problem with the air conditioning, getting some estimates on that. Front beach, restrooms, right of way, it's been basic maintenance. I've been coordinating with Pleasant Places. We're getting ready for the fall flower plantings. We've ROC'd the golf cart path over by 20th and Carmen R. Bunch Park, cleaned that all back, and just had our usual meetings and underground storage tank tests. Any
Susan.
questions?
Yeah, Susan,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Thank you so much, as usual, Robert, for everything that you're doing. And on 23rd Avenue, Hartnett area, I think that I've talked to a few neighbors. They're seeing some improvements, but as you mentioned, it's not all totally resolved. Just to let you know, I know one neighbor has started pumping using his own pump to kind of clear out the area between one of the houses in the middle between 23rd and 24th. And so I suggested he just get in touch with you just to let you know what he is doing. I think it's been impactful and helpful. And then the other is that on the block between 22nd and 23rd, I know that the improvements where the swell ditch is, it has been good, but on the opposite side, there is JR has a house that is always had a lot of flooding problems, but they've gotten worse over time. And he said, I would love to have a ditch on my side too. And it could potentially connect at the corner of 22nd and Hartnett to move some water down that way. So
Okay.
I don't know if I pointed both of them your direction. I don't know if they reached out to you.
Yeah, not yet, but that's fine. I'll go out there and take a look and see what I can find.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
one note for you guys is starting today, the public restrooms went to winter hours, consistent with previous years. So we are now 9 to 6 operating hours for the public restrooms.
Got it. Thank you,
9
Don.
a.m. to 6 p.m. instead of 8 to 8.
Got it. Perfect.
Thank you, Donnie. I was going to
Yeah.
mention.
Other questions, Rusty? Anything for Robert or Donnie? You good?
No, just thank you guys. Appreciate what you do.
Desiree, do you have a question, comment?
I just wanted to say that Robert has also been working on the landscaping for the public safety building. As you all know, we are getting ready to complete that project in the next month or two, and the landscaping around the sign and adjacent to the building that was embedded in the project budget. And Robert's been meeting with Pleasant Places and developing really, really cool designs for the building. So just didn't want that to be left unmentioned.
Yeah, thank you.
I do have one more
Go ahead,
thing.
Donnie.
I don't know if anybody's aware, but Intracoastal Court is part of the city street system. So we've done some temporary asphalt work there, as well as a pothole. There may have been some complaints, intersection of 34th Avenue and Forest Trail. That will be completed this week. But just so you, and that is also part of the city, that particular intersection is county city road, not state.
Yeah. Good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that pothole's a tough one on 34th, Donnie. Thank you for getting
Yeah,
that.
we'll get it this week.
You're saving me a bike wreck. That's what you're doing. Susan.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I just wanted to thank staff and recognize the work that they've done on the website with their projects and the timelines, and in particular relating to this committee. They have a great one up on drainage that makes it a lot really easy to look at progress and where we've been and where we're going. And I would suggest too, right now when we have a captured audience, obviously from the attendance at a lot of our council meetings, that maybe to think about something a little out of the box around drainage, maybe a presentation around drainage that's not geared toward council, but geared towards the public, and explaining a lot of, maybe some of the basic questions, like why do we have open ditches versus or prefer open ditches versus closed ditches, and look at some of the challenges that we have, and maybe even explain some things that they could do to help, and then put in a context some of these bigger projects that we're working on. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Thank you, Susan. And Donnie and Robert, thank you guys both for the work you guys do. And Ron, if you don't mind, when reports are available for both of them, if you'll just get them out to the committee, I'd appreciate that, just so we can have record of that. Old business, update on phase 3 drainage project and small internal projects. Desiree or Douglas, or both?
Yes, I'll give y'all an update, but I'm going to share my screen and do a quick plug on what Susan just mentioned. Here it is. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so for those that are watching, if you go to the city's website, iop.net, and you scroll down, you will see project updates. And this is the section of the website that Councilmember Smith was talking about. When you click view all projects, we have been keeping a updated timeline and updates on the city's major projects. And one of them is phase 3 drainage. When you click on it, you can keep up to date with everything the city has done since the development of the idea, the work that the Planning Commission did back in 2017. And sometimes we think that these projects take a long time. They really do. They're just a lot of steps that need to take place, a lot of waiting sometimes on outside agencies for permitting. So, this is I'm really proud of this tool that will help people understand and stay up to date with the progress on some of these projects. I'll give you an update on where we are now with phase 3 drainage and the small drainage project. For the small drainage project, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. For the small drainage project, we have released the request for bids package Friday, September 25th, and we advertised it on the paper on last Sunday, September 27th. The city will have a required pre-bid meeting on October 8th to provide a project overview and describe some of the specifications of the project. Thomas and Hutton will lead that. All prospective bidders are required to attend, and the deadline for those folks to submit proposals will be Thursday, October 29th. So later this month, we should have proposals for the construction of that project. The city submitted a grant application to the Rural Infrastructure Authority on September 14th. We're also working with Thomas and Hutton on grant applications for two grant funding opportunities that came out from FEMA. And those deadlines are back in, next January. So we have some time, and we'll be working with them on developing those grant packages. For the larger project, that is still currently in the design and the permitting phase, that they're still coordinating with the Wild Dunes staff for the design for the 30th Avenue outfall, and their meetings have resulted in some design changes. The design and plan production, according to Thomas and Hutton, is at 80% complete. They're working and making some progress on the stormwater report, and the permit applications are ready for signature. And they expect to be able to submit all permits this month.
That's great.
That's all I have.
Susan.
Douglas, is there anything that I missed?
No, I think you hit it, hit it all. I would just say, to kind of elaborate on what you said about the issue with the golf course, that I think it's the 8th hole of the harbor course. We are having an issue where the ditch that's there, and it goes right across the fairway. And I don't know if it's shrunk over time or if it was always this size, but it's, probably 8 feet or so from bank to bank. And Thomas and Hutton is saying, with the amount of water that should be going through there, that needs to be 2 or 3 times that width.
Wow.
And 2 or 3 times that width has playability issues for the golf course. So we're trying to work through, Wild Dunes has indicated their preference would be to pipe that ditch and make it basically a flat fairway across the whole way there. That has implications, though, on the amount of wetlands being disturbed and obviously costs. But they are agreeable to potentially providing areas that we could mitigate and offset the wetlands that we would impact. So that issue is getting, it's a little more complicated than I guess we originally thought it probably would be, because of that dynamic of the width of that ditch. So we're working through that, and it's kind of a it's a large ball to unwind to see which way is the best and agreeable to everybody. So we're working through that now.
Yeah,
And
Douglas, that's huge. Two or three times current width.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah,
I got a lot of golf balls in that ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we all.
it would be a significant impact to the course. So
Yeah. Yeah. Susan, question?
Yeah, a question for Douglas. First off, you said 8th hole. Can you give me a street that'll help me know where you're talking about?
31st.
31st. Okay.
Parallels waterway and
Okay. And then my other question too, and I know we've talked about this off and on, but in terms of the multi-use path, where are we with that in relation to everything else that's going on? And I'm still not entirely clear of what the funding that we have with the bonds, whether that's covering complete, redo of that path or just a section of that path.
So on the multi-use path, we've signed an agreement with Thomas and Hutton to study really they're conceptually studying, giving us an estimate of cost of elevating that path to give additional flood protection on the backside of the island. And I really haven't heard, I know they've been, we've kept them pretty busy with all of the other things. It seems like everything's kind of coming to a crunch time, each of our projects all at the same time. So I haven't heard much, but I'll reach out to them and see if they've made any progress on that project or not. But it should be in their queue and underway.
That's
Desiree, I don't know if you've heard anything additionally on that.
No, but I think that to answer your question, Councilmember Smith, the proposal included elevating the whole length of the Waterway Boulevard path.
okay. Great. Yeah, I would love to see that completed by spring of next year. Would be great, since we've been talking about this since
Won't happen.
got on council and since before I got on council. So I just know that it is something that many in the community have been waiting on for an extremely long time, and just hoping that we can accelerate that. So thank you.
Yeah.
So I
Go ahead, Douglas.
think it would at least be my expectation that if we do find that it's a benefit to elevate the path, there will be drainage work done to accommodate the raised path. And I think, so to me, that would say that that project will probably get lumped in with the outfall project.
Right.
So
I think that was the intention, Douglas, right? I mean, doing it at the same time.
right. So I don't know that that will happen. I think we're still farther out than what you're hoping for.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's fall at best next year.
Oh, okay.
Hey, at least we got it on the agenda and paid for at this point. So it's
That's
progress.
true. I guess
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. The wheels turn slow. Thanks though.
Yeah. Well, and you think about Desiree just meant, you just now putting in permit request, and you know how long that takes.
Well, I do appreciate that we are taking this literally to another level, and doing something that hopefully will not only protect houses in that area by elevating that path, but maybe my expectation would be that it will also make that path more sustainable down the road.
I agree, Susan.
Several
Yeah.
puns in there.
Yeah. Not unnoticed. Very good. Thank you, guys. Item B, I don't think we have anything new financial about the outsourcing of household garbage collection services, but I'd love to hear if there's been conversation around any of the backdoor service elimination. Desiree, I'm guessing probably not, because it seemed like we just met, but it has been a month.
Yeah, we have not made a whole lot of
Okay.
progress on this discussion. We have not received any updated information from Republic on the numbers specific to IOP. We only got, again, the household garbage. I apologize, we just haven't had any time to
No,
work on this.
there have been other higher up priorities at this point, for sure. So not a problem. Item C and D, nothing really to update on Dominion. Desiree and I've had a little bit of back and forth with the Dominion reps over the last week and a half or so. We have a meeting scheduled for, I think it's October 12th, Desiree, if I remember right, 10th or 12th, somewhere in there. Yeah, with the community affairs director for Dominion, as well as some of their operations folks. So they're coming back. You remember last time we looked at the list of about 6 projects that they had that we could use some of that non-standard money for. So my hope for this meeting on the 12th is they're coming back with some high level estimates for those projects. And then also we had thrown out the idea of a memorandum of understanding between the city and Dominion in place of a cutting agreement, which again, I think will be much more beneficial for IOP. It'll be very specific to us as opposed to a whole lot of boilerplate language that Dominion uses for their cutting agreement. So I'm hopeful at that meeting, we will be making some significant progress on these small projects as well as an MOU with them. So Desiree, anything you want to add to that? Are you good?
No, we're good. I was hoping that we could have a draft MOU just for discussion purposes when we meet with them on the 12th. So we'll be working on that internally at staff level. Definitely we'll share that with the committee once it's developed. But I'm hoping that this meeting will sort of solidify and give some structure about next steps with their team.
Yeah, I would agree. Thank you. Susan.
In regard to the eligible projects for undergrounding power lines, I would, in addition to cost estimates, and maybe you mentioned this, would like to see how the impact of improving service, like if those are, how they relate to trouble spots where they have a lot of outages, if that is relevant to the larger conversation.
Could be, yeah. It seemed like in some of the conversations, Susan, with Dominion, I think they would say their reliability is pretty high. If we have trouble spots, that may be worth a separate conversation at some point. But all right, new business. Oops, sorry, Susan. Do you have something
What I
else?
guess what I mean is, if there's some benefit to undergrounding, if some of those lines are more vulnerable for because
Got
they're
it.
above ground and lead
Yeah.
to outages. Yeah.
I'm with you. Gotcha. Thank you. We'll make sure we cover that. New business. Thank you guys from Water and Sewer Commission hanging in there with us. Consideration of the MOU with the IOP Water and Sewer Commission regarding the island sewer master plan. I know this has been kicking around for a while, so I don't know if Desiree or Douglas, a little background before we bring in the water and sewer guys, or what you want to do.
I think Douglas can give us a quick update on the work that the Planning Commission has done ahead of submitting it to the Water and Sewer Commission for ratification, and maybe we can hear from the Water and Sewer folks.
Okay, perfect.
So I would just give a quick introduction. This is the same MOU that was, was kind of agreed to as a next step several years ago, and it was originally worked on by the previous city administrator. It got a lot of work years ago, and then it kind of fell by the wayside for a few years. And here recently, it's been picked back up. Life has come back into it. And I will say that here in the last few months, it's gone back and forth between the Planning Commission and the Water and Sewer Commission members. There have been a few tweaks since the last time you all saw it, and those tweaks are redlined in the version in your packet that you can see. I would say that they really are just kind of editorial and update type information. And just kind of globally, I would say this is a very open MOU that basically says that the city and the Water and Sewer Commission will share the common goal of expanding public sewer, and that the two bodies will work together towards that goal. Doesn't give a tremendous amount of detail. It gives reference to other plans and other strategies that would work towards that. But it just talks about freely sharing information, working with each other to get those, to reach that goal. And I will say the Planning Commission has taken kind of their, put it on their plate that the next step for them would be a more strategic, more of a strategy of how to do it, how to physically expand it, what mechanisms could be put into place to do it. So there would be a follow-up document, but this is kind of the first step in just laying the groundwork towards expanding sewer into the future.
Right. Great, Douglas. Thank you. Chris or Jay, you guys want to chime in at this point?
Yeah, good morning, folks.
Good morning.
Go along with what Douglas was saying, in that it's a document that's fluid. It's going to be changing as time changes, economics needs. So it's a good outline to be expanded upon. The delay in getting it prepared, unfortunate, but that's behind us now. So I think, and looking forward to working with the city.
Good. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. Desiree, do we need action on this to submit it to council, or what are you looking for given the wording in the agenda?
Yes, if we could have a recommendation from the committee for approval, then it will be included in the city council agenda. It's not necessary for the committee to take action, but certainly, would give some credence that the committee has looked at it and agrees with the language changes and are recommending approval or ratification.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get a motion and a second, and then we can have some more discussion if that's okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the MOU, the current draft of the MOU with the IOP Water and Sewer Commission in the city regarding the island sewer master plan. So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Susan, question or comment?
I did have a question, and there's
Sure.
a reference in here to, I believe, the city attending monthly meetings of the Water and Sewer Commission, which I think that Douglas, you're doing that on a regular basis, or are we
Yeah,
making a point that that's covered?
yes, I am doing that now. And I can tell you that provision was added in there at the request of the Planning Commission, primarily to keep the Planning Commission informed about progress as things go forward with the wastewater treatment plant switching over. They just wanted to be sure that the city was kind of kept in that loop, and that seemed to be the easiest way to achieve that. I'm already attending those meetings. I could get the report from Chris and basically provide it to the Planning Commission and let them know if something goes wrong or things start getting off from where they were intended to be, that I would notify the planning.
Super. I think that's great. I mean, this is probably overdue, and I'm looking forward to the city and the Water and Sewer Commission working more closely and having better communication. I think this is one of the good steps that we can take.
Rusty, questions, comments?
Well, I just noted that I know this is a fluid document, but we also have, a time frame of approximately 10 years to work towards this common goal. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a little bit of concern about that date, and you'll see there that some language was put in there to be sure that the casual reader would know that date was subject to change. We just don't
Right.
know. I think a lot of it obviously has to do with funding, and I think funding, we're hopeful that maybe if grants were pouring in, I think we probably could do it in that 10-year time frame. But if not, if money is tight as it typically is, it probably will take long.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question in regards to grants. I didn't know where we stood on that, and if those kind of funds are readily available or not.
I can tell you that both the Water and Sewer Commission and the city, it's, I guess, coincidental that we share the same engineering firm, and that engineering firm is doing, in my opinion, an excellent job of identifying the projects that they're involved with and potential. They have a whole division dedicated towards seeking out these grants and pairing their projects with the applicable grants and then going after them. So I think in the grant world, they kind of pop up. You have to have your looking in the right place at the right time to see them. So I think we're doing that, and we're in a good position where Thomas and Hutton is doing a lot of it for both groups now, which is good.
Yeah. Good. Susan?
Along those lines, Douglas, do you see any potential for drainage with the drainage projects that we're working on? Are there easy opportunities that you would advocate for changes with sewer?
We have been looking at that question for since the beginning. It just so happens that expanding the sewer and improving the drainage lines has all been, really coming to the forefront at the same time. And it would seem obvious that there should be some ability to coordinate that. I think that we've identified that the best opportunities will be in repaving. You know, if we, that's going to be one where if we're going to make a crossing or we're going to have to do work, that we will just have to coordinate that and see if it, if one project benefits another. But I think that it will have to be somewhat serendipitous, that it just happens to happen at the right time. And we have not been able to really identify, you know, hey, this project, let's do it together. I think it will be more kind of small scale, good luck timing type situations. But we both are definitely aware of each other's projects, and we are, you know, our utilities will be crossing directly each other's. I mean, we're going to go under their sewer lines, and they're going to have to do sewer lines under our or SCDOT's drainage lines. So there will be a lot of times when we'll be working in the same trench, but I don't know that we'll be making improvements at the same place at the same time. Too many moving parts, I think, to orchestrate that.
Well, and Douglas, to your point, I mean, the funding is such a big number for continued drainage work as well as sewer. It's going to be close to impossible to have all those stars align, I think, unfortunately. It makes sense, Susan, and I remember we had this conversation, Planning Commission 2 years ago, Douglas. It's like, while you're digging the island up, couldn't you just take care of undergrounding, sewage, you know, and drainage all at the same time? And it just, it's going to be hard to coordinate, just given the funding levels of these projects.
Right. And I wasn't actually expecting that we would, you know, gear everything together, but just thought that there may be an occasional opportunity. And if everybody's aware of what the other is doing, that, you know, that one might seize that opportunity to do something here and there together.
I think that will potentially raise its head. That opportunity will come up occasionally. Not maybe as frequently as we would like, but we, you know, we've used the same contractors, as I've said. When a road needs to be repaved, that's definitely seen as an opportunity. If you need to, if somebody else is going to repave it and you can get in there, certainly a good time to do it.
Yeah, and advantageous to everybody to get all that done at the same time.
Do it all at once, absolutely.
All right, any other discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No, thank you. Chris, Jay, you guys want to run like the wind, or you want to hang around? Oh, you're here for this next item as well, sorry.
Yeah, we've got the next little one.
Yep, sorry about that. So our next item is discussion and consideration of amendment to section 5-4-32 of the city zoning code to allow for sewer pump stations in the SR1 single residential district. So Desiree or Douglas, you'll want to give a little background and context here.
Desiree, I'll do that if that's all right. So right on the heels of discussing an MOU of working together and kind of scratching each other's backs when the time arises, this is timely. What this is an amendment to the residential zoning code standards that would allow for the Water and Sewer Commission to build lift stations with 1,000 square foot footprint, which I think they agree would satisfy their needs, to put lift stations throughout these residential neighborhoods that would allow their system to operate. Basically, you have to have if we are going to expand the sewer system, there will have to be these occasional lift stations throughout the network to allow that to happen. There are already a number of them on the island, and what, in my opinion, what's happened, trying to kind of look back in history as to how we got to this point, it was either 2015 or 2016, the city and the Water and Sewer Commission worked on amending the code, and there was a lot of focus at that time on the fact that the main sewer plant at 41st and Waterway Boulevard was in a residential district, and therefore it was a non-conforming property. So we added sections to the residential standards. And it really, in my opinion, focused on that project, and it talked about minimum lot sizes for having any sewer infrastructure. And I think as kind of an unintended consequence, the code was written such that the way it's written now, it would not allow the construction of a lift station in a residential district. So we have this kind of general condition all over the island. I think there's a specific property that the Water and Sewer Commission has identified at 7th and Palm that they are interested in potentially having that ability in the future to add a lift station. So that's brought to light this issue that they do have a zoning hurdle, and they would need this text amendment to be able to use that property in the way in which they would like to use it in the future. I don't know if Water and Sewer, if you all want to elaborate on plans, or if we just want to focus on the amendment.
Purchase of the lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the plan is Douglas and I have discussed, the particular property would be a difficult lot to build a home on. I think it would be more impactful to the neighbors than they would like. And more specific use of it, in addition to the lift station, would be as a park for the citizens to enjoy. There's a pretty nice sunset, look at Hamlin Creek. So, it'd be a double-edged use. And the use of it, I think in your package, you may have some drawing or some mapping of the particular lot and where the location of the future plant might sit or lift station might sit. So it's just kind of a three-part deal, really, to take the property, have it, and it could be 5 years, could be 2 years. We don't know when the money and situation will lend itself to put the lift station there. But in the meantime, in conjunction with the city or the garden club, would be to use the property as a park as well.
Susan?
And so is this the property that the beach company owns?
Yes.
Triangle piece.
And have they indicated that they would help provide this property to the city at a reduced cost?
We've negotiating with the beach company and have an offer for Water and Sewer Commission to purchase the property, subject to the zoning.
Okay.
Yeah, Susan,
So-
this would not be city property. This would be IOP Water Sewer Commission property.
Okay, well, that makes this conversation easier, I
Yeah.
think. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, that seems like, and I can see in this case where this might be more attractive to residents versus seeing this property developed into something else.
Yeah.
A future look of a home would almost be something of a monument, given the size of the property and the setbacks. So I think you're correct with the best use of the lot.
All right, thank you.
Rusty? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good move if you all can make this happen, because it definitely, I mean, that piece of property there, if it had a home on it, it would just look out of place, I think, in my opinion. Didn't the city at one time attempt to buy that property?
There were some conversations about the city using some Greenbelt funds to acquire the property, but we didn't have enough Greenbelt funds to cover what they
Right.
were.
Yeah. And again, just Douglas made this point, but just to be clear, we're having this conversation on this one property, but this zoning change would need to happen throughout the island whenever we get to a sewer project at some point, but specifically looking at it on this property right now. But again, it'll go all across the island, anywhere that's an SR1 zoning. So.
And it may, down the road, city property may come into play as being a location as well.
Absolutely, Jay.
Start developing the whole system.
Yeah, good point. Susan?
Yeah, I have a question. Like, have you all, I believe I've seen some plans somewhere along the way that suggested some places where you might have want to add pump stations. I mean, I'm not sure how serious those were in terms of pinpointing actual locations. I can't remember where.
Yeah, I think we're a
saw
long
that.
way from, a
Yeah.
long way from that happening.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if you had, it seems like this is a good easy opportunity in a way where it might be more difficult to pinpoint the station locations in more tightly developed areas.
Right.
Thomas and Hutton had originally identified
That's what it was.
a
Yeah.
particular site as a good location. Whether they identified other places around the island, I don't know that.
Okay.
Desiree, go ahead,
Thomas
Douglas, sorry.
Hutton did do a very conceptual plan that did show locations of these lift stations, and they kind of caveated it all over the place that they hadn't identified necessarily the exact lot where they would be, but I think it did identify roughly the number of stations they would need and the general locations, but it was a very fluid, they kept saying, don't get too attached to where we're showing these. We're just showing them as kind of a placeholder to let the folks know that we do need these lift stations sporadically throughout the neighborhoods.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that that's what I was looking at, and I was surprised when I saw the number of lift stations that might need to be added for island-wide sewer. And that was one piece of the island-wide sewer conversation that gives me some pause, because I think there may be some concerns once if you got to that point where you were adding as many as Thomas and Hutton's plans suggested you might need.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and Susan, you overlaid that on top of undergrounding electric lines and right-of-way needs. It's a big conversation for sure.
It is.
Yeah, Desiree, do you have a comment? Yep.
I have a question, and this may be, something for the Water and Sewer Commission, but have you all thought about the design for that lift station? And also, I guess, being prepared to answer questions from the community around that area about concerns with foul smelling odors coming out of the lift station. I know that the technology nowadays has evolved to a point where some of those concerns can be easily mitigated. But I think if we can talk a little bit about what that means for folks, even though they might prefer to have a lift station there in a park rather than a house, I think we need to be prepared to show people what that will look like and how can we minimize its visual impact, and not only visual, but also potential odors and that kind of thing. So I'm not sure if y'all have had any discussions about that already.
The one lift station I keep pointing to, because I kind of, in my mind, visualize it to be not a mirror image, but real similar, is on 29th and Waterway. It does have an odor containment system, and as time goes on, there's nothing going to be but more improvement on odor control. And then having a park scenario associated with it is more landscaping, less visual concern, I believe. The biggest thing obviously is odor. And as like I said, as time goes on, the odor control just gets better and better.
I don't know if that screen is shared, but that's the
Yep.
one at 29th and Waterway.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, I do go by that somewhat frequently, and occasionally, although I know it's not too bad, there is an odor that you noticed. Not all the time. I'm sure it depends on whatever the circumstances are in the moment, but I do notice an odor when I go by there from time to time.
Is it possible to have that contained in a house-looking structure?
Well, that pump station that's on the screen there is actually one of our larger pump stations. The one that would be constructed down on 7th and Palm would be a considerable amount smaller. But if you look, we probably should have had some pictures of the ones along Ocean Boulevard. It would be more along the lines of that, where we have wooden fences around them. They blend in a little bit better with the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So definitely that pump station in 29th is one of our bigger ones. Now there would be a good bit smaller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I think whatever you can do to be proactive and make sure that we're showing people the smaller station that lines up with what you're talking about doing and the aesthetics of what you can do around that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. The wooden fence is a little less noticeable, and the landscaping that we put around them will definitely blend it in a lot better with the neighborhood.
You
We
know,
want to be
Super.
visible as we can.
Yeah.
and all these things are true, right now, we need to buy this property, and so we just need to modify that we can purchase the property with free and clear title to do what needs to be done. And certainly, we don't want it to smell either. We feel the same way. So right now, we just need to amend the code that we can use this. So thank you for help.
Yeah. So Desiree, we need action on this. So can we have a motion to make this change to the city's zoning code?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Oh, second.
Susan, second. Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous, Nicole? Thank you. Thank you, guys, Chris and Jay. Appreciate the help and conversation. It's been good partnership to get this piece done. So you know how this has to go through council.
Yeah.
A couple of readings, but we have at least lit the fuse at this point. So
Yeah, well, certainly, if anything else we can add, please don't hesitate. Call
All
me.
right.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all very much.
Have a good
Yeah.
day.
You too.
Have
Thank
a good
you.
day. Then our Douglas, thank you very much. Very helpful. Some of these things you just work on for years, don't you, before it spits out at the other end. Patience is key in this public service, I'm finding. Our last item, new items, discussion, consideration of roof repairs to the Public Works Workshop to address ceiling condensation. Robert mentioned this earlier, issues in an amount not to exceed $19,000. There was a bid from Trident in your package. Desiree, a little background here.
Yeah, basically what Robert was talking earlier, we've recently been noticing some significant condensation issues on the roof at the Public Workshop. Just to clarify, I know you all remember that recently we made some improvements to the building where we changed the floors and pretty much did a whole renovation of the workshop, which turned out very, very nice. But work on the roof was not included as part of that scope. There were certainly some issues with the ceiling tiles, but it wasn't until after that project was completed that we fully understood, the degree of that issue. We have been reaching out to our Trident Construction, which is who the contractor who's currently making the renovations at the public safety building, to get them to look at it and provide us some estimates. Since they've already been mobilized to the island, we figured that it might be a good, efficient use of those resources, and it may result in some potential savings to that work, since they're already on the island and mobilized here. So we have received an estimate from them. It's still being worked on. We're going back and forth, Douglas and Robert, going back and forth with the Trident folks to try to, continue to refine the estimate to something that is, just covers what we need. And we've been successful at doing that. So it may be that the estimate that you have in your packets has already evolved somewhat, but we think that it would be in the 18 to 19,000. Potentially, could be potentially less. And Douglas will share, the updated estimate. I'll let him sort of walk through the actual work that would be done on the building, but we are requesting this approval for some, not to exceed funds to get this done, hopefully before the Trident folks leave in November. This is unbudgeted. We do have some, you all recall that we've been budgeting for the second year in a row, maintenance funds to address issues like this in city buildings and city facilities. We have an amount budgeted for public works, but it's not quite as much as what we would need, and we would be depleting it completely. It's roughly $12,152 for public works. But as you all know, we have been doing a really good job at managing the contingency for the public safety building. So we have some funds there that we can allocate towards this. Certainly something that needs to be done. We don't want to delay it until next year. We definitely want to make the building comfortable and appropriate for our folks. So Douglas, do you want to sort of walk us through what the actual work will
Yes. Yes, I would like to do that. As Desiree mentioned, this is happening, and really what we're seeing is the ceiling of the public works shop has started showing signs of moisture damage. They're sagging, they're discoloring, and we're starting to get smell in there, mildew smells, high humidity. And there's a little bit of a mystery here in that we saw the ceiling in that condition 2 years ago or so, and we thought that we knew that there were roof leaks. The roof was leaking, and we attributed those problems with a leaking roof. We fixed the roof, we did all of the other work, and we thought we had solved the problem. Lo and behold, a year goes by, and we're seeing it again. And what we're learning now is that the attic, and basically it is the AC system sweating on top of the ceiling. And if you stick your head, we've had the heating and air guys out. We've actually insulated the ducts better. We were hoping that would do it. But what we're learning is that when you put your head above that ceiling, there is a huge open vent, a gable vent that's allowing fresh air in, but it doesn't allow it to escape. And you have a situation where the air in that attic is 100, 115, 120 degrees, and then it's 72 degrees in the space below it, and there is not enough of a barrier between the two spaces to stop that dew point from happening, and it's causing the ducts to sweat at a tremendous rate. So we're getting a lot of water. It'll just run down the walls at times. So what the plan would be to basically encapsulate that attic entirely. We would close off the gable vent and spray foam the attic area. And what we're going a little bit back and forth about is whether or not we have to tear down the entire ceiling grid or we don't. That ceiling grid was just put up. We would have liked to be, and the tiles themselves are fairly cheap and not problematic to replace, but the grid itself is a big portion of this is replacing that grid, which unfortunately is only a couple of years old at this point. So we're going back and forth with how they would physically do the work and to see whether or not they could keep that grid and just work around it. And we're having meetings here in the next few days to figure that out. But for the time being, we are counting on worst case scenario, which would include replacing that grid. I would also say, and I apologize, I think that the quote that made it into the packet probably didn't. It was an early one where their software didn't allow the pricing to populate entirely down the total cost column. And so I think the amount that we would like to request that you will consider would be not only the spray foam in the attic, which is approximately $9,000, but also putting back the ceiling grid, which would be, we'll do it if we have to. We hope we don't have to, but that is $9,200. Plus the AC work, we would consider cleaning those ducts because we think they're holding moisture. and we would consider creating new taps to go into the attic to equalize the air humidity and air temperature. So when you total all of that up, it's 22,658. And we've talked a little bit about whether or not we should get Trident's heating and air people. That's Morelli. They're included in the quote, or we may have the contractor who has traditionally dealt with that system, Berkeley Heating and Air. So we're kind of going back and forth on that, but we wanted to be, open and clear about it, that the entire project would also have, in addition to the ceiling work and the insulation work, would have some component of HVAC work. So we think the amount is 22,658. We would hope to bring it down, and we may shift some of that out of this quote to a different subcontractor.
Thank you, Douglas.
Robert, did I miss anything?
No, you didn't. That's everything.
Desiree, go ahead.
Well, just looking at the procurement code, this would be an unbudgeted expenditure, and anything that's between 10 and 25, the city would need to provide at least 3 written quotes. And I know that Robert's been trying to get quotes from at least from another contractor for this work. So we would definitely, have to comply with our own procurement code, but it would not require the city to do a competitive bid process because it's not over 25. So we don't have the additional quote right now, but we're hoping that by the time this makes it to the Ways and Means Committee meeting agenda and council, that we should be good to go.
Okay, thank you, Desiree. Susan, question?
Well, first a comment, we don't need to look any further than the public safety building to know that we need to get on top of things like this and make sure that we provide a safe environment and get moisture problems fixed. Is there any recourse in this in terms of were there issues with I'm not sure who all we employed on that project, but should this have been caught by the engineer that do we have an engineer that or
Unfortunately, we didn't, Susan.
okay.
It was, to us, when we went over there, the work that needed to be done was fairly obvious. It was like paint, new flooring, and nothing. And as I said earlier, we attributed that discoloration to a leaking roof.
Gotcha.
And in hindsight, there were multiple things going on that were leading to that we just missed. I mean, we didn't go through kind of the exhaustive process that we did with the public safety building of having expert, folks pick through the building.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Douglas, can you go back to full screen if you don't mind, please, sir? Or stop sharing your screen, whoever it is. Thank you. Rusty, comment, question?
Yeah, just I guess most of this is related to the high humidity we have around here as well, right? I mean, with it being open on that end and the humidity gets in there and it gets trapped and creates that condensation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Desiree, do we need to amend this item? Because I know we need to vote on it to be not to exceed 23,000.
Yes, it would require an amendment if that's the will of the committee.
Okay. So we don't have an original motion. Can we go ahead, Susan? Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna.
You were going right down that lane, weren't you? Susan is frozen up on us. So Desiree, do we need to vote on
That we
make the original motion, then do an amendment?
sorry.
Just make a motion.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got frozen there.
Yeah.
You can
Just
make
make
a
a
motion.
motion with the new amount.
Okay. Correct.
Thank you. Sorry. Susan, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I keep getting frozen, but whatever needs to happen to make the motion as needed.
Yeah. So Nicole will make this motion as written in the agenda. Just change the amount to not to exceed 23,000. Have a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you. Any further discussion, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Thank you. And Desiree, I know when we take this to Ways and Means and full council, the first question is going to be, is it budgeted? No. And where we're going to pay for it from. So we just need to outline that in the in the motion.
Got it.
I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it'll just be easier, as you know. All right, that's it. Our miscellaneous business next meeting is 8 a.m. Thursday, November 5th. Hard to believe we're talking about a November meeting already, but that's it. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, aye. Donnie, Robert, Desiree, Douglas.
Thank you.
Ron, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. You'll have a great day.
You too.